The clay brush is what they refer to as a topology independent brush. What that means is that its behavior is going to be the same no matter what's happening to these polygons underneath. It's going to smooth and it's going to subtract in the exact same way. It doesn't care about the topology. So it's topology independent. Now that becomes a huge advantage in the eye area because we've got a lot of stuff that's going to start to interpenetrate. So I'm going to press Alt and push back the nose here a little bit. Okay, and one thing I'm doing, you may or may not notice it, is I'm setting up this kind of cello shape, nasal bone, and then you get the lateral cartilage moving in, and then you get the alar cartilage for the nose, and then you get the nostril wing. Okay, let me outline those in red so it's a little bit more apparent. Alar cartilage and nostril wing. Okay, those are all really important plane changes you got to be aware of, and so I'm just indicating it slightly. Okay, build the eye. Alright, there are a lot of ways to do eyes, but what I want you to do is slowly build a rounded, mound-like shape. Check it from below. In fact, you should build it from the exact angle that I'm building mine right now. And then check it from the side, and that looks good. Lining up with the cheek, I'm probably going to actually cut some of the cheek back there, and that's a massive brow, so we're probably going to cut that back. Not unrealistic in some people. Okay. And let me look at this from below. I'm going to use the move brush and tug the corners in. With that eye, you really want to just get some depth in there, so you really want to tug those corners in. Yeah, that looks good. So we've got a pretty decent foundation for us to be adding eyeballs, but we don't have enough resolution. So for example, I'm going to come into the clay brush, and I'm going to start trying to put the eyelids on. And I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'm going to undo all of that, and this is where we're going to change our strategies. Let me switch over to move. I want to make a few more changes. But the strategy now from this point is going to be to work or move away from Dynamesh, and we're just going to get in and start to sculpt with the brushes. Later on, you're going to spend more time in Dynamesh, I think, than we are right now. But I just want to make sure that I'm limiting the amount of problems that we can encounter, and I'm staying focused on the tools that I really want to introduce you to right now. But there's a lot of ways to create eyeballs, and a lot of fun ways too. Alright, I'm just adjusting that back a little bit. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to turn Dynamesh off. It's gone, it's off. Now if I press Control, click and drag, the topology does not get refined. But what I will do now is come up to the divide button, and I'm going to create some subdivision levels. So divide, and now I've got two levels. The original and number 2. The original, number 2. Now if you're a little bit more pro, you might be asking yourself, why am I using subdivision levels and why am I not increasing resolution down here? Okay, that's totally within the realm of reality, but that's part of what I want to introduce you to. Increasing your Dynamesh resolution is one option, but Dynamesh is really designed to basically get you to this state, and then its job can largely be done. Then you need to divide it and start to add detail. We're going to be evaluating Dynamesh and that question of how far to take it in all of the stuff that all the Dynamesh stuff that we do later on. So you can check that out. Now I'm going to divide this. Well, it's already divided once, and now I'm going to introduce you to a new brush, a brush called Clay Buildup. If you look at the the thumbnail, the little image that's popped up below the brush quick palette. It says base type is clay. Okay, this is going to give you your first introduction to how brushes work. But clay buildup is the exact same brush as clay. It has one setting that's changed in it. And I'm going to tell you that setting right now just to introduce you to this complexity. It is, let's see, we switched over to the move. Let's go clay buildup. It's in brush, samples, and it's called buildup. And what buildup does is it means that the brush will just continuously build and build and build and build and build. It doesn't care what happens. It's just going to build. That's in contrast to the clay brush right next to it, which stops at a certain point. See, I can't make it build anymore. I'm brushing along and it's a continuous depth. So you use clay brush or clay buildup. The primary difference is right there. The other is that it's shaped a certain way. It has an alpha in there. So I'm going to set my draw size, and I'm going to start to carve in or add an upper eyelid, sorry. Okay, let's pull it down. You can smooth as you go if you want. Smoothing can add some difficulties. Let's put a little bit of fat underneath the overhang. Start to even that out a little bit. And the fat of the eye, I usually just move. I mean, it depends on the character, but I move it and terminate it right into the glabella. Then overhang the bone a little bit. And let's pull back. Alright, so we got something. It's some seriously wavy eyes, and you can either change that with the brush or use the move brush to adjust it. The reason why it happened is because of the topology and the way the topology was flowing. It just more easily adjusted here. So you can adjust that. You can use your brush to move it or to resculpt it, but I find just using the move brush to be the easiest, fastest way. And I'm going to lower the overhang. I'm going to raise that and raise that. One thing we often make a mistake about with the upper eyelid, I can actually demo it right here. The opening for the orbit of the eye kind of hides the fact that the orbit of the eye kind of creeps up in the back, and then it has this shelf on the bottom. So the eyeball itself is actually kind of sitting up. This is an exaggeration, but it's sitting up and kind of protected a little bit. So again, that's an exaggeration, but keep in mind that if you're looking at this from a front view, the eyeball itself is not going to be perfectly lined up with the orbit of the eye. It's going to be raised upwards a bit. Okay, like mine is. Alright. Oops, wrong brush. Switched over to the move brush, and I did that with a hotkey. Something we're going to learn about. Alright. Okay, now another thing that'll be good, get the lower eyelid, so clay and build up. Now lower eyelids, they're going to be subservient, they're underneath the upper eyelid. They're going to be in two portions. One portion is going to hug the eyeball itself. Okay, and that's really important, especially when you start getting into expressions. You need to be aware of that portion that's hugging the eyeball. And then there's another portion which bridges the gap all the way to the zygomatic bone. Okay, and there's a lot of stuff that happens to that portion, depending on age and things like that. So this can become an eye bag, or it can just be a nice smooth transition. The way I'm going to do this is with clay buildup. I'm going to just build up underneath that eyelid, underneath the, well, I'm just going to build it up, let me just say that. Okay, I'll smooth out the bottom of it a little bit to make sure that it doesn't kind of overlap itself and become a problem later on. And now I'm going to add what's known as the caruncula, medial palpebral raphe, or not raphe, but the medial palpebral ligament. Okay. And then I'm going to just sculpt right inside the blend. I want to make sure that I'm blending that lower eyelid portion with the bone. And that might mean that after I do it, I'm going to press Alt and I want to carve the bone a little bit. But that's something that's going to take experience to be familiar with. And the anatomy of the face workshop that we do here at ZBrush Workshops. So make sure you check that out, because that's a huge source of information. Okay, let me pull out. Okay, we're starting to get that. I'm just going to make sure there's a little bit of volume all the way around. Okay. Now, you could leave it like this. It looks kind of nice as an older person. Or you can just shift and smooth. If you do it, make sure you don't shift and smooth over that lower eyelid. Basically destroy it. You have to smooth intelligently so that you keep detail. And then you're probably going to notice it's very soft. And you're going to want to start to define this a little bit more. So that's when I'm going to introduce you to another brush.